Hi, everybody. This is 1,632 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. And we believe that it's all on. I'm just going and saying because I wanted to talk about so many things today. We are really burning the midnight oil tonight, but it's necessary because so many things are happening. That is, we're almost we're almost there, y'all. We are almost there. So our son, 1,632 days ago, uh, tweaked that number just a bit here and there because of all the interference that has gone on in our son's investigation. But we're going to get to the exact truth. Um, we're getting there. It's just amazing. But he was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss, we believe, in the arms room, of building 24, what is it, 2479? 2479. They're on Han Road. And um, for, reporting as an official whistleblower. And this is really important for everyone to know, and I'm going to talk about that. As an official whistleblower on criminal trafficking. So make sure I'm on so I can see everybody's comments. And I know it's really late. So whoever is burning the midnight oil along with us, welcome. Welcome. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you so much for coming on. Um, so let's, and of course, the prime suspects are Dallas Hart. He's a prime suspect of the prime suspects. And of course, First Sergeant Michael Ruggiero, and of course, Jonathan Caleb Ambrose, and of course, CID agent Tavita Nusa, and Lilani Hart, and James Courtney Hart. And there's this was absolutely an uneven playing field. Richard was surrounded by wolves, and so, or should I say coyotes? Should I say coyotes? Maybe that's a better analogy. Um, and and there was a cover up. They really abused Captain David Park, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick, um, uh, Major General Clem Coward. They abused their power. They absolutely um, retaliated retaliated against Richard. And when that didn't work, when that caught all their shenanigans caught up with them, and it didn't work, they then government sanctioned murdered Richard and covered it up. And for a long time, and we've been saying this because of this case, and I think Anicia can even vouch for it. Really, at the very beginning, the odd responses that we were getting from people, people laughing, people trying to change the narrative right from the very beginning. And I think our delay in calling Richard's unit, I think that gave them, like, I don't know, I think they were really up to no good, really up to no good, that I can't release more. I've mentioned the VA, I've mentioned people stealing identities and trying to collect in benefits and all of that. So you have to piece that all together. But they were up to no good during that time that we were unaware. Um, and, from the very beginning, we knew this was internal because the reaction, with Vanessa Guillen case going on and them throwing us out, that was just like really weird to us. That was an indication. Talking to the PAO, Allie Payne, that was a huge. She was just so she needs to be fired. She needs to be in jail. Talking to her and, uh, but people wouldn't have believed it. It was really hard to believe it. And then you had all the mandates going on during that time, the unnecessary mandates going on. And people were thinking about, their jobs, right? Their businesses and their jobs and their health and their families. And it was just a total chaotic time. It was absolutely insane. And we understood all of that, right? We understood that this how can people believe what we were saying, that this was a government sanctioned cover up of the murder of our son, and something had to be behind it. How could they believe it when they had so many other worries? They had so many things were going on at that time, just trying to survive the mandates. And the psychological effect of all of that. People were trying to just get through day by day. And so it was such a disruption, right? A disruption of everything, the whole world over. So we understood that. And we just pushed forward. We didn't know what else to do. We just pushed forward, and we understood that a whistleblower is, someone that reports, right? But we didn't realize how much we needed to know. Excuse me, about a whistleblower. What was a true whistleblower? And so I think I posted it today, or maybe it was on our family, because we had this discussion that, um, it's someone that's inside, that's an employee that officially reports to the right agencies. You can't just say it out loud, right? You have to report. And that's what Richard did. He's a true whistleblower. And of course, Judge Roger Rodriguez is a true whistleblower. Let me drink something, y'all. Ooh, thank you. A true whistleblower, because in January of 2022, he called us and he said, my name is Judge Roger Rodriguez, and I have just filed an official whistleblower report on the interference of your son's investigation with multiple agencies, because the individuals that I am reporting on and blowing the whistle on is internal. CID Tavita Nusa, CID agent Tavita Nusa, Fort Bliss CID agent Tavita Nusa, and Lalani Hart, of course, the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart. And of course, the wife, then, now they're divorced, but at that time, they didn't get divorced until, I don't even know if it's been a year. To the Fort Bliss Veterans Administration, it might be called El Paso, Fort Bliss Veterans Administration, IDES Pueblo, which is a big deal, a very big deal, because it's a big purse. And we were very we were we didn't know if we should trust the information, because by January of 2022, um, we had already fully understood that our respect for the military, our respect for generals, positions, law enforcement, even judges, that was taken as weakness, and that there was absolutely systemic corruption. Absolutely. We knew that. And, but because of the mandates, because of everything, we didn't know. We didn't know the wheat from the tares. And, God says, don't pull the tares, because you might pull some wheat with it, right? And if anyone knows this story in the Bible, then you understand what I'm saying. You don't pull the tares, that's the weeds, those that are corrupt. You don't pull them out, you don't pull it apart, because you might pull some true whistleblowers with it. And we we tried as hard as we could. We do know that there were some people that were retaliated against uh, harshly, harshly. And because of the way we were infiltrated and surrounded by those that were up to no good, it almost seemed like it was coming from us. And we tried to really do as much as we could to minimize that. Because if we would pull that apart, it would do more harm in moving forward. And I hope people understand that. And that it absolutely slowed things down to a degree, but it also allowed us to move forward and keep our son's case going. And I hope I hope people understand what I'm saying, because it is, unless you're living through it and you are surrounded by people that are up to no good, and then you have, good friends that are trying to help, and others are, um, attacking them, and even people that we didn't know that were trying to help, that were being attacked. It was just, it was a battle. It was really a battle. And why am I saying this? Because this is such an amazing time, because people are starting to understand. They are understanding the strategy of these evil people. And, especially like Bob Moore. Bob Moore's totally up to no good with El Paso Matters, because El Paso Matters is up to no good, because El Paso Community Foundation is up to no good. And those three are one, right? Those three are one. El Paso Community Foundation funds El Paso Matters, and El Paso Matters is Bob Moore. And these false narratives that he does, and his Christmas ambush this year that he did, and his lying, it's all coming back to haunt him, y'all. It's all coming back, because he just lies. And we did respond. He said we didn't respond. We did respond. We responded to Miss Ramirez of El Paso Matters. We did respond to El Paso Community Foundation. And then they ambush, and they put out a false narrative, and they do it right during Christmas, when they think that you wouldn't respond. Of course, we're always vigilant, we're whatever it takes. And we did respond, and I don't think they thought we would, but we did. And it was something that took a lot of time during the holy days of Christmas. And, but this is all for the glory of God, because when you are establishing justice, you are absolutely doing it for the glory of God. And these people are lawless. They don't know what justice is. They are they are just absolute criminals. And this is the motive. The motive with Bob Moore and El Paso Matters and El Paso Community Foundation, with using convicted criminal Leilani Hart, who was you know being reported by the okay, pick what you want, because he's both, by the terrorism and Homeland Security Program Coordinator for Fort Bliss, Judge Roger Rodriguez. Judge Roger Rodriguez, the Terrorist and Homeland Security Program Coordinator. I mean, the, you know, so Bob Moore is, not telling people, oh, my convicted criminal source, that's the mother of the prime suspect, the platoon leader of Richard Halliday. It was being reported officially, uh, with an official whistleblower report by a judge in his judicial capacity, which he didn't have to do, but in his judicial, that's really what wowed us, in his judicial capacity. And where is Bob Moore saying this? And so it's all coming back to haunt him, because of course he leaves out CID Tavita Nusa, this internal. And so um you know they absolutely CID the Marlon Soto, Todd Howell, Christine Wormuth, um, Ford, Ford, what's his first name? The CID guy. And then, of course, the generals and Sean Bernabe and General Michael Garrett. Um, they all try to cover this up. Cover this up, that the coordinator for terrorism and homeland security on Fort Bliss, Judge Roger Rodriguez, filed an official whistleblower report identifying the prime suspects in the murder of Richard Halliday. Leilani Hart, and who's the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, and Fort Bliss CID agent Tavita Nusa. Now, they tried to cover that up, because what that exposed is, it was it was a Fort Bliss snowball that threatened to cut off hundreds of heads at the border. That's a quote. That's a quote from an article today that I wanted to lead into, that is about the Polero Tunnel, the Juarez El Paso Polero Tunnel, and the translation of the article I posted says the Polero Tunnel, Juarez El Paso, is a snowball that threatens to cut off hundreds of heads at this border. Hundreds of heads at this border. What does this mean? What does that language mean? And this is why the the chain of command from Captain David Park. Remember that letter that he invoked Darth Vader? Um, from Captain Park to First Lieutenant Dallas Hart to First Sergeant Michael Ruggiero, who they're all facing I think they're facing the death penalty. I think they're facing the death penalty, y'all. It's that serious. And of course, Michael Garrett, the general, and McConville and Mealy, and what about Donna Martin? She's facing the death penalty. She's the IG, right? Isn't she the IG? She was the CID provost marshal. She was the provost marshal. Um, these people have committed the worst type of crime. The worst type of crime. And, I'm not calling for any violence. I'm quoting this article that's directly translated from Spanish to English and the meaning of it, because polero is, comes from the root word polo. I think I'm I just thinking about my big fat Greek wedding, right? Where he's always talking about the root word. But anyway, the polero comes from the root word polo, which means chicken. Polero is kind of like a chicken farmer, right? And they use the word polero to describe a coyote, what we call in English a coyote, which means a human trafficker, right? A human trafficker. But they use the word, like a chicken trafficker, right? A chicken, like calling those humans that are being trafficked chickens. And because of that kind of connotation in all of this, the description of what these tunnels mean and the implications of these tunnels, because these tunnels are highly sophisticated. They have ventilation, they have electricity. The electricity was coming from a main road in Juarez. That means the post where it was coming from means that there was government sanction use of the electricity, government sanctioned use for these tunnels, government sanctioned human smuggling. And we know through these years that there is political groups that want to thwart the law, that don't respect the law, that don't feel like you need to obey the law, that we should be able to have human smuggling, that we should absolutely have, you know, bring as many people over, use public funds, use federal and state funds, house them with those funds, ignore the needs of our land and our people. And, this whole thing with bringing weapons to Ukraine and all, I don't know. I don't know if I really believe that. I think that they're trafficking it, because in the articles that we've been reading, it's all about trafficking weapons and ammunition, including the human trafficking, the children trafficking, and the drug trafficking, right? It's all about all of those. It's criminal trafficking. And, and this is billions, billions of dollars, tens of billions, tens of, uh, you know, the amount of money, who knows? But, just with the drugs, we're saying 90 billion a year. And then, of course, you have the ammunition and where is all that ammunition coming from? Where is all those weapons coming from? Don't tell me they're coming from Fort Bliss. Don't tell me that they're emptying out our arms rooms. Don't tell me that they're being very messy with all of those weapons in the barracks and everything like that because they wanted to be messy with the arms room so that they could traffic with impunity. Don't tell me that Richard caught wind of that and that was part of his whistleblower reports and that's why he was getting retaliated against and murdered and then they had to cover it up. And don't tell me that his unit is connected to the Walmart mass shooting, which had M4s and brown tip bullets and green tip bullets and all this stuff that we're hearing that are military grade and that, uh, and don't tell me that all those weapons are going through this tunnel, this Polaro tunnel, and don't tell me that that's the only tunnel. And then the big deal about it is that it's government sanctioned. Well, where did you hear that from? Well, you've been hearing it from us. You've been hearing it from us that this is a internal problem, that this is a code red, that this was absolutely retaliation by the chain of command of Richard, and that Bill Hicks was a usurper, and the county judge Veronica Escobar at the time brought in this unqualified medical examiner, chief medical examiner, and authorized payment to these individuals impersonating judges on the El Paso um, criminal law magistrate court that they're not even, they have, since 2015, they have no jurisdiction, that they have no authority because they're not elected and they have to be elected. They have to be elected since 2015, and none of them have been elected. So none of them are truly judges with any kind of authority. They're not even judges, they're imposters. So you have a unqualified medical examiner that's illegal. Then you have imposters uh, impersonating judges with no authority on the criminal law magistrate court that handles about more than 90% of all the cases in El Paso County. And then you have, the problem in the DA's office where the DA uh, is allowed to stay on the case. That's Jaime Esparza for almost 2 years on the Walmart mass shooting case. When he had a personal conflict of interest since his sister was there at the Walmart. And then when Yvonne Rosales came in and she started investigating and wanting to bring forth the Walmart mass shooting case to trial, just make a trial date, and investigating El Paso Community Foundation for fraud distribution of the Walmart mass shooting victims fund, which was over $12 million. When she started looking into that, when she started looking into Richard Halliday's case, they schemed to remove and replace her with a usurper, someone that could not in his right mind sign the anti-bribe line, before his oath of office, which then made him also an impersonator, a usurper. That's the right word for it, a usurper of the office and having no real legal authority under the Texas Constitution. And, so this is all like, what's going on here? What is going on here that this is being allowed to happen? The county is now the county attorney is not calling any of this out. No, she's calling Ken Paxton out for the Annunciation House, who, he wants to shut down for what? For human trafficking. And she thinks she has some kind of credibility now after she has allowed all this to happen and puts, really El Paso in danger, total in danger, because, you know, just to allow all of this corruption, uh, and then this trafficking, when right now in Juarez, it is the highest casualty rate in the known history of the border. And and the county attorney feels like she has some kind of credibility now. They have some kind of credibility now to say something, to pass judgment on anybody when they're totally lawless. It's it's very, very telling. And then the tunnel is exposed, and the tunnel is exposed to the fact that it's government sanctioned, allowed. And so the author of this Spanish article, that is an amazing little article, is saying the Juarez El Paso Polaro Tunnel, right, is a snowball that threatens to cut off hundreds of heads at this border. So let's dissect that a little bit. A snowball, I guess, like a snowball effect, that it was growing, 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 and it would implicate government officials, law enforcement officials, politicians, in this criminal trafficking, which includes human trafficking, which includes child trafficking, which includes the fentanyl trafficking, which includes the weapon and ammunition trafficking. That this would have a snowball effect. That's how I'm reading it. So please, however you have, if you know Spanish, God bless you. Please tell me if I'm on the right, if I'm translating it properly. But when it says Juarez El Paso Palermo Tunnel is a snowball, I'm thinking it's a snowball effect of criminal charges to law enforcement and even politicians. And it threatens to cut off hundreds of heads at this border. And I'm thinking they're going to lose their jobs. They're going to go to jail. They're going to be charged. That's what this means to me. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I'm reading this. And, that is echoing everything that we have been saying. This is such a gift for us today legally. Um, a horror for us, thinking that how many humans have been trafficked through these tunnels, how many weapons have been trafficked, how much smuggled would be the right word for the weapons and the ammunition, and all the drugs and all that, even the money, because the money has to be laundered. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars. And, people took the jobs. They took the jobs. They took the corruption. They, were in these positions. Maybe they wanted a bigger house. Maybe they wanted a fancier car. And they absolutely became traitors. And they took the money. They took the position of becoming the El Paso cartel. This is the El Paso cartel. And really, what the news is coming, I don't know if we coined the El Paso cartel. I've been told, oh, Miss Halliday, you coined El Paso cartel. I think that they knew El Paso cartel was there, right? It's just that people are so afraid to say it. But how how do you stop this from happening? It's kind of like watching those old movies where you see the front line charging and you're like, "Oh my gosh, they're going to their death. How are they charging? How are they doing that?" Because they know that you have to start somewhere. You have to speak out, and look, we've lost so much. We've lost our son, and brutally, brutally lost our son, and lost, we recognized that we were losing our military, that we were losing our country. We were losing the rule of law because of the way they treated us, because of the way they treated Richard, because of the way they treated Glennon Oakley Jr., the way they treated Asia Graham. We were losing it. We were sitting in those meetings, the 15-6 meeting. We came out. I remember my dad, we're just like, oh my gosh, what have we become? And so, you have to speak out, and speaking out is the modern way of charging the front line. And thank God. Um, and that when I was telling Yvonne Rosales, be like a what was the saint from France. Oh my gosh, I drew a blank. But um, you know, y- what I meant is you have to speak out. A Joan of Arc. You have to be like a Joan of Arc. You have to speak out. You don't have to put on your armor. You put the full armor of God on, right? But it's the truth. It's the courage and that, because we're losing our country, and so many other people are going to get hurt, and so many more families are have to go through this hell. And you've just got to be patient. You've just got to put in that time. Uh, look at what these 4 years were like, because it is politics, and we do want to have a just outcome, a just outcome. We don't want to pull the weed up with the tares. We want God will sort that out. And he has. And this gift of this tunnel, um, I shouldn't say the tunnel, the implications, the truth that has come out from the discovery of the tunnel, the Polaro tunnel, that is what is a gift, because now people will understand, yes, the FBI agent Jesus Neto absolutely knew about this tunnel. Veronica Escobar absolutely knew about this tunnel. Forklift leadership absolutely knew about this tunnel. You can't run a tunnel like this and not know about it. This is a government sanctioned criminal trafficking network. And the El Paso cartel has people in it that wear suits, that wear uniforms. And the Juarez cartel, which they are saying it's La Linea, right? La Linea, that these are also individuals that wear suits, that wear uniforms, that, have nice eyelashes that they put on, and do their hair pretty, and or maybe even call themselves a widow, right? Um, this is not a small money game. And it's very interesting, because we have hard evidence that our missing persons report that we submitted with the Attorney General's office there in Juarez, for the area of Chihuahua, the Chihuahua Attorney General's office, was tampered with, and seemingly by those that are involved in this kind of activity. Um, and they're not, bums on the street. These are sophisticated criminals. And, they're very serious about keeping their criminal trafficking network going. Because when you have tunnels like this that have, that are government sanctioned, remember that this tunnel, this trafficking is government sanctioned. And that means they're using your taxpayers' money. They're using your taxpayers' money to bring you crime, to target your children, to target you. How many do we know that, were targeted? And I know a few people in El Paso. I even know one that their family member died of the fentanyl. And, I know of a couple. And I also know about a lot of child abuse in the worst way. And you see that in the news everywhere, right? And then, of course, we have the Walmart mass shooting, which, not by my choice, but we know a lot about the Walmart mass shooting, a lot about it, and the individuals. And we also know a lot about the jet port, the Santa Teresa jet port. And we know a lot about the VA, the Veterans Administration. And there's a lot of traitors. And it's really, in 2020, when we would say there's traitors, and people would be like, oh, but there couldn't be that many. They couldn't get away with murdering Richard and trying to cover it up. And today is huge evidence. There's been like breaks in this case, like Nadal Baim walking into the Dollar General. That was a huge break in the case. Huge break in the case with Judge Roger Rodriguez and his official whistleblower reports to multiple agencies in his official capacity as a judge, to identify CID agent Tavita Nusa and Lilani Hart, Richard's platoon leader's mother. That was a huge, huge break in the case. And, on and on. Today is a huge break in the case because it confirms that there's active and ongoing government sanctioning of criminal trafficking networks. And that's huge. And it also discredits and disgraces Bob Moore, El Paso Matters, and El Paso Community Foundation, because they are a 501c3. They're supposed to be fair. They're supposed to not have bias, right? They did not publish our letter to the community. They did not correct. He's evaded the cease and desist, right? They are a disgrace. Bob Moore is a disgrace. There is no other truth than that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss for being a whistleblower, exposing criminal trafficking. There is no other. That is the truth. And the evidence is robust, right? That was a word given to me this week, and I said it yesterday, and I think it's a great descriptive word. Our evidence is robust. There's no doubting it. And their responses, and when all that comes out, and with ongoing court cases and things, people are going to be like, wow, these people are so criminal. um and Richard Halliday's a hero. Absolutely, Richard Halliday's a hero. Judge Roger Rodriguez is a hero. And of course, I would say President Donald Trump is a hero, because don't forget that he was absolutely targeted. And for a long time, he's been saying what's going on at the border, what's coming across is not good. It's not good. And, hundreds of thousands of taken children. They try to say, oh, these are unaccompanied minors, taken children. And we're hearing the worst things about what happened to them, the worst things. And that they're now mostly dead and they can't produce them. So where are they? If you want to say, oh no, that they're all okay, they're all living swell lives, where are they? You're not talking about 10 children that's hard to find. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of taken children. And where are they? And they're mostly dead. So, it's been an amazing day, um, because now we have the media, we have the U.S. government saying, we're investigating, the government sanctioned, uh, in the area of the border region, criminal trafficking. And it's we've been right all along, right? We've been right along with the tunnels. Um, I've known that. I can't remember when I learned about it because it's been so long. My dad worked at Fort Bliss. My dad worked at White Sands Missile Range, at McGregor Range, in the silos back in the day. And we knew when we lived on, I was in eighth grade running around Fort Bliss. My dad used to jog with me. Um, he's like, there's tunnels everywhere. Everywhere. Um, it's like, where do these tunnels come from? They're everywhere in that area. And of course, they're international tunnels. And this is an international crime network. So I think that's a huge news. Huge. I wanted to talk more about General Kelly. Up to no good. That's another general that came in to focus and all of that because he was DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and Department of Homeland Security was absolutely part of this case. Remember, it's 15 plus cases, 15 plus agencies, and of course, he was one of them, right? He was one of them that are involved in what's going on at the border there between Juarez and El Paso. So I just hope you share all this information and also the videos. That's really important to get the word out about Richard, about Judge Roger Rodriguez, about President Trump, because we have to stand up against this kind of evil. And, we want to have a good economy, right? But we don't want our economy to be based off of other people's pains and criminal activity like trafficking. Um, and so we want to have a really happy, productive kind of economy and a border safe. And, having a border does not mean, I grew up and I don't mean to go on and on, but I think this is an important little story. It only take me a few seconds. I grew up always going over to Europe because of my oma, right? Because of my mom, that my mom visiting my grandmother, and we would go over for the whole summer, and we would, my oma, she was a cleaning lady, and she, she was amazing. She only had cold running water. I mean, it sounds what a story, right? But it's all true. It's all true. Um, and she used to save her money. She put 5 mark pieces in a little bank for us. My sister would get one. I would get one. It was wonderful. Had that was our spending money to get over there. We had to work hard to pay for our flights. We would have to mow lawns and babysit and whatnot. I worked at Burger King, and whatever it took to get that flight money together. And then she took good care of us. And one of the ways she took good care of us is to give us a little spending money, and then to make these bus tours, right? To go over to Switzerland, to go to France, to go to Italy, to go to Austria. We went to Austria quite a bit. To cross the border, go to Luxembourg. And at that time, it was before the EU. There was borders everywhere, and there was different currency, and you had to go through the border, and were so happy because we got our stamp in our passport, right? Oh, we're now in Italy. Woo! We're now in Austria. We're now in Switzerland. And it was just such an exciting thing. And you had different languages, and you had different kinds of food, and you had different culture, different money, and you had to learn all about it. And the people were so happy. They were happy that you were there. Um, and there were people from all over the world, and we were happy, to be traveling Europe and going to the borders and having that. And now with the EU, and I'm sorry, I've never been a big a happy person about the EU. They took down the borders, and yeah, okay, you don't have to get your stamp. You might not have to stay in line or whatever. Um, but the crime is terrible. The food has, still there is, because of the language and stuff. It's just a whole different atmosphere. And it didn't, what it's doing is it's eating away people's cultures, the the different cultures, trying to make everything monogamous or whatever, like the Borg people or something like that. And, it's taken away the humanity, um, and, all this stuff with like the false narratives, like at the Walmart mass shooting. And, it's misinterpreting different types of people and how they feel. And of course, there's always been mean people. Look at now. Look at now the traffickers, right? The coyotes, the poleros, the chicken people, well, I shouldn't say chicken people. They're the ones that are being referred to as, they're the ones that are being trafficked. The polero, the meaning the coyote, the traffickers, the criminals. Um, they're very, very mean people. You're always going to have mean people. You're always going to have people that, I don't know, are up to no good. And we have to deal with that in society by, just saying, get away from me. You don't know what you're talking about. But they've made this whole thing political. And if you go back and look at old movies and everything like that, it shows a different narrative between people's, and I guess because I'm this year I'll be 60. Um, you know, you just, I don't know. They just lie. They just lie and try to create trouble with these false narratives. And I know things happen. I'm not saying that. Um, but but my goodness, their solutions are making things worse. Are making things worse. And it's just kind of like all this talk about health and good health, but they don't offer us good water. Give us good water. Give us plenty of good, cheap water. They don't even have water to put out a fire in beautiful California. And they want to tell us how to be healthy? And they just bring us to ashes. And, take our children and murder our children. Their policies, their criminal activity, it leads to death. That's what I'm saying. And so government is just like a pretty word right now for these criminals. And I'm not. I know there's some good people in there because we've been getting a lot of help from some good people in the system. Um, and of course, President Trump is part of the system. He never wanted to be a politician, he says, but now he is. So who knows? Um, let's see. We're praying, but we're getting some excellent news lately that is bringing us closer to getting our son's remains. That's the goal. Getting our son's remains and holding those that murdered our son and covered it up accountable. And it seems that they're going after first the traffickers. So I think they've heard our crying in the wilderness. They've heard it. Of course, we've reported it and reported it and reported it, and we're going to continue. And we did some more today, and we're going to continue. And if you can share that, we are very, very grateful. Share the posts, share the live streams, share the videos, because that is how we get justice again. That's how we get a, a, a prosperous society again. Because with this level of crime, I can't even imagine how many small businesses have been bullied. I can't even imagine all the other ramifications for these evil people getting all this money and what they've done with it. Um, yeah. So, thank you everyone for your support. We're not done yet. We still have a ways to go, but we're getting there. And it has been, let me tell you, at the beginning of this, if you didn't believe in God, you sure believe in God now. You sure believe in God. God's hand has been all over this. So thank you. God bless you. And I will be back